A very warm welcome to all our viewers here at CNN News 18 Global. Today we are going to be discussing the Israel-Hamas war and the global fallout of this war. As we all know, the war has entered the fifth day. Israel and Hamas have been fighting, and the war is only deepening with each passing day. There are new fears of Gaza's biggest humanitarian crisis that's looming large. Remember, millions of Gazans have fled the land towards Egypt amid relentless Israeli airstrikes. The ones who are trapped in this war zone are also cut off from water and food. Experts are calling Gaza's current situation its worst ever humanitarian crisis. Let's not forget the fact that the WHO has also declared that they've run short of medical aid, and aid is also not able to reach them because the passages are blockaded, especially the one through Egypt. Amid Israel's style grip on Gaza, United Nations has also condemned Hamas taking hostages from Israel. At the same time, they also want Hamas to return the hostages, and they have also condemned attacks on Gaza. The UN Human Rights Chief Volker Turk on Tuesday has said that Israel's sieges were illegal under international law. Turkey, surprisingly, has also condemned the horrific abductions and mass killings by Palestinian armed groups. On that note, let me also tell you that CNN News 18 has been reporting from ground zero in Israel as we cover this war minute by minute for you. And let me also bring in our reporter, our international news correspondent, Abhishek Jha, who's covering this war for us from Tel Aviv. Abhishek, thank you for joining in at such a crucial hour. Let me begin, before I delve deeper, by asking you, what is the situation like on ground zero? As we all know that most of the action has shifted to southern Israel, basically most of it in Gaza Strip. How have Israeli authorities now kicked into action?
Well, the situation in Tel Aviv is a bit calmer because, of course, it is not being right now being targeted by the people or the militants from Gaza, which is not very far from where I'm standing. It is about 100 kilometers, and in between there are two major cities that have become target of rocket strike from Hamas. That is Ashdod and Ashkelon. Ashdod is about 60 kilometers from Tel Aviv, and Escalation is about 45 kilometers from Tel Aviv. So from Tel Aviv to Gaza, it's about 100 kilometers straight, and in between these two cities fall, which have been the target of massive attacks that has happened from the side of Hamas militants. In the last 24 hours, not much has happened in Tel Aviv, but the government has asked people to keep safe, stay inside, and do not come out unless and until it is very necessary for them. So the places in Tel Aviv, which used to be a very buzzing touristy destination, has been very calmer. There is no traffic. That has been the word, because the traffic is something that used to be an issue here. The beach sides are practically empty. People are not coming. Which these sites used to be thousands of people used to be lying around and involved in recreational activities. So there is a clear sense of uncertainty, clear sense of security that the people have been facing, and in the days to come, it is only going to be worse, and that is the sense that the people in Israel have because of the counteroffensive that the government has planned for in the days to come.
Right, Abhishek. At the same time, there's also a lot of fear within Israeli families of those who've been abducted, who've been taken as hostage. Everybody is praying for those families and their loved ones who've been taken as hostage. We want to know, is there any hope that Israel is shelving for those families, for those hostages? What is the chance that they'll be rescued?
Akansha, in the past, what has been the response of Israeli forces in the wake of any rocket attack or any massive terrorist attacks from the Gaza side, that they would go all out to neutralize or to detain, arrest the people who would be responsible for that attack. This time, the situation has been different. First of all, The kind of attack was massive, never in the history of Israel. In the independent history of Israel, you could say 700 or 900 civilians have been killed in a short span of 24 years, 24 hours. About 150 soldiers have been confirmed dead. More are counting, so we don't know yet how many casualties Israeli side has suffered. But in that context, the part that has been deterring Israeli forces to go all out against those who have been responsible for these atrocities and havoc have been the hostage crisis. Many foreign nationals and Israelis, they have been taken hostage in Gaza, and that is probably one of the reasons why security forces are not launching that massive operation, because they want to keep low the casualties of civilians that is being used as shield from the Hamas. That Hamas has in the past also used humans as shields to stop Israel from attacking those sensitive locations. Right now, what Israel has done, complete cease of complete blockade of Gaza has been announced. That means that Gaza will not get electricity, food, or other
Right.
essential supplies. That is in a way to encourage people to leave the space, so that in case of counter-offensives or airstrike, there are minimum casualties. That is what Israeli side is thinking right
Right.
now.
Abhishek, electricity, water, food, and fuel have been cut off from the Gaza Strip. What is the situation in Israel? We know that the country is at war. How are Israelis preparing?
Well, Israelis in Israel, it is like mostly the Tel Aviv and other major cities, they are safe. So they are not in a zone of panic, but government have asked them to prepare for some contingency plan, like to store some baby food, medicine, or food. That because in some unpredictable situation there could be shutdown or shortage of supply. So basic amenities has to be kept under stock. So this is what the Israel have been told. Along the Gaza, we don't know yet. The counter-offensives are on. The security forces' first priority has been to take hold of the situation and ensure that the fences those who were breached are restored. Security forces and the line of defense is prepared there. The next round of offensive that could be territorial, that will come in some time. But for now, we don't know much about these situations that has happened and why Israeli forces are mostly resorting to airstrikes.
Right. All right. I just found someone waving the Israeli flag behind you. So it does seem like Israelis are still being very hopeful that they will be winning the war, which is also what reports are indicating. Perhaps you can ask him, Abhishek, what he thinks. Perhaps you can ask him
So
what he thinks about the
if I could
country.
ask you, you are, I'm sure you're from Israel. So I think the situation has not been very good in the last 2-3 days. How will you
Abhishek,
feel?
ask him to step into your frame. We can't see him.
Yeah, if you could, yeah, if you could come side. No English. Okay. So, but do you fear bombings? No fear. So, like these guys, they are just they're
I
more
think
confident
Israelis
that
are very they're born survivors. And
So, Akansha, I will tell you one thing that today when I was walking around, I met some of the Indians, and it will be a little overwhelming to say that, but some of them were saying that only two forces have saved Israel. One is God up in the sky, and the second is the defense forces of Israel, who have ensured that Israel remains protected and well defended. So that is the kind of confidence people
right.
have in the Israeli forces. This was one mishap that the Israelis will have to look within, and they will have to find answers why this massive scale of intelligence failure and security breach happened. But apart from that, we have seen the last 50 years or so, the country has been mostly defended. Uh, and maybe the next round of counteroffensive is also being
Right.
planned, international support is being resorted. And yes, Akansha.
Abhishek, there's a lot of talk about the global fallout. Now, let me come to that aspect. Before we delve deeper into how this will be impacting the geopolitics of West Asia, I want to know from you the kind of global reactions we have started, we've witnessed streaming in. The latest, of course, we've seen is that coming from Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary of the United States, who said that US is all prepared to tighten sanctions on Iran. At the same time, we've seen Turkey, a country that is largely pro-Islamic, condemn the killings of Hamas. The UN has gone on record to condemn what's happened. And take us through the kind of global reactions we've seen coming.
Well, sanctions are part of Western regime, and they would like Iran to feel more pressure. Already, Iran is under a lot of Western sanctions pressure because of apparent and alleged role of Iran in supplying weapons to Russia. In the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we have seen there have been some stances from Iran also, and the Western sanction and Western, political approval on Iran also. This time also, Iran and its back supported militias have been present in the region, in Syria, in Lebanon, and in other parts also, which have, in a way, joined and in a very well concerted effort, the kind of attack that we have seen happen on Israel. Not only the southern Israel, but the northern Israel is also facing some sort of attack from Hezbollah or forces who are in position in Lebanon. So the kind of attack, an all-round attack that has happened on Israel has also mobilized the world in a way to help Israel, especially EU country, Europe and NATO allies. They are coming for that help. James Cleverly, the UK foreign minister, is pretty much in Israel right now, and this is not that he will come and he will fight, but this is the solidarity message that the UK has sent to Israel. We have known that the largest battleships are heading towards Israel from USA, and that is in a way to support and ensure that the Israeli forces, when they go ahead with their counter strike or offensive, they are well supported and well aided in terms of ammunition, in terms of intelligence, or in terms of military support that Israeli forces may need. So this is the kind of international mobilization that has happened in favor of Israel. India, for its part, has supported Israel in a way. It has condemned the militant or the terrorist attack that has happened.
Right.
So there is a very strong chorus about the condemnation about the terrorist attack. There are few countries which have not condemned, and they are trying to find logic in the attack or the atrocities, or as a brazen human rights violation that has happened over the last weekend in southern part of
Right.
Israel.
The other question that comes to mind right now is this is a second parallel war that we are seeing, one of the major allies of the United States. Then we look, there's already a war that's happening in Ukraine. The big question everybody wants to know and is trying to put is whether the United States is in a position to aid Israel along with the military aid that it's already sending to Ukraine. Because remember, I was interacting with Israeli ambassador, States Ambassador Michael Oren, and he said that media reports have indicated that much of the American stockpile that was stored in Israeli houses has been sent to the war in Ukraine. Taking
Well, there are
is
there is
States in a position to help Israel right now?
Well, there is no doubt about it that it will constrain the resources from Europe, from USA that were supposed to go to Ukraine, and then they have new theater of war also coming around Israel. For that, in USA, there is a very critical constitutional crisis as well. We know that Speaker of House Kevin McCarthy was just removed last week, I think, and the next speaker hasn't been sworn in. So there is a policy
Right.
paralysis in USA also. At the same time, there are differences. How should they mobilize their resources?
Right.
Should the support to Israel be countered or kept opposite to support to Ukraine, or the both should become a policy that the two sides will get
I'm
equal importance in USA?
Before I let you go, I'd quickly like to ask you about how this will impact the politics of the region. Remember, the Abraham Accords are going to get stressed. There's already been a Saudi and Iran, China, US trying to broker a deal between Saudi Arabia and Israel. That's going to be impacted now. So, how do you see the war impacting the overall politics of West Asia?
Well, the first casualty it seems to have been the Saudi and Israel relationship that was about to be improved, and two sides were keen on establishing diplomatic link and having more people to
Right.
people exchange and trade dialogues. Also, that is the first casualty that seems to have happened. Also, there is a sense that Muslim countries around the world are trying to unite and fight against Israel. That will not happen, of course, but at the same time people are trying to create a sense of brotherhood in the countries who have been surrounding Israel, and they have had those wounds of Israel attacking them and winning over them. That was in 50s and in 60s. Those times when Israel did not only protect itself, but it also captured land of Jordan and Egypt. Those lands will later on return. So while these countries have not come out in full support of Hamas, there is a duplicious or kind of double speak that we could say that does not indicate a very strong condemnation of the terrorist attack, or that also says that they may choose sides or they may take advantage of the situation that would unfold in the days to come. So we don't know yet
Or,
how many countries will be dragged into this war, but the situation is serious. And
or
apart
I'm
from
afraid
what is happening in Israel,
that
geopolitics is taking its own
short
course.
of time, but I wish you for joining in with your precious inputs.
Thank you.
And with that, let me also play out for our viewers some ground reports that CNN News 18 brings to you.
Israel continues to pummel Gaza as it vows to finish the war started by Hamas. Relentless airstrikes are being carried out even as Israel has laid siege to Gaza, cutting off electricity, water and fuel to the Hamas-held enclave. At the same time, tanks are being swiftly moved to the border and an unprecedented 300,000 reservists have been called up as Israel readies for a ground invasion. Israel's deliberate shift towards a more intensive military approach is aimed at exacting a heavy toll on Hamas.
The savage attacks that Hamas perpetrated against innocent Israelis are mind-boggling, slaughtering families in their homes, massacring hundreds of young people at an outdoor festival, kidnapping scores of women, children, and elderly, even Holocaust survivors. Hamas terrorists bound, burned, and executed children. They are savages. Hamas is ISIS. And just as the forces of civilizations united to defeat ISIS, the forces of civilization must support Israel in defeating Hamas.
But complicating this already volatile situation is the fact that Hamas is holding more than 100 Israelis hostage and has threatened to execute them every time Israel strikes civilian locations in Gaza without prior notice. Early in the morning on the 7th of October, Hamas pulled off a stunning assault, reaching the Israeli border via land, air and sea and taking the country's world-famous intelligence agencies completely by surprise.
Seriously, it's really living hell. Never seen something like this. I've been in two wars in my life and never seen anything like this. Bodies, all places for the slaughter. They slaughter us there. They didn't care if you are a man or a woman, you are young or old man. They are killers, they are murderers. What they did can be forgiven. And one day we will avenge the Muslims in Israel and we will avenge all the Palestine.
Seeing the size and the scale of the operation, questions were raised about possible external support, especially from Hamas's longtime ally, Iran, which could escalate the conflict into a wider regional war in the Middle East. But Tehran has denied the allegation.
حامیان رژیم و بعضی از افراد خود رژیم غاصب یاوه‌گویی‌هایی در این دو سه روز کردند و ادامه داره، از جمله اینکه ایران اسلامی رو پشت این حرکت معرفی میکنن. اشتباه میکنن. ما البته از فلسطین دفاع میکنیم. ما از مبارزات دفاع میکنیم. ما پیشانی و بازوی طراحان مدبر و هوشمند و جوانان شجاع فلسطین رو میبوسیم. ما به اونها افتخار میکنیم. این هست.
Hamas's unprecedented offensive against Israeli cities have sharply divided global forces into two camps. The West has expressed solidarity with Tel Aviv.
The people who support Hamas are fully responsible for this appalling attack. They are not militants. They are not freedom fighters. They are terrorists. Their barbaric acts are acts of evil. There are not two sides to these events. There is no question of balance. I stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. The United Kingdom stands with Israel against this terrorism today, tomorrow, and always.
And then there is the other side, which is pointing fingers.
Украинский кризис продолжается, но вот, к сожалению, мы видим резкое обострение ситуации на Ближнем Востоке. Я думаю, что многие согласятся со мной в том, что это яркий пример провала на политике Соединенных Штатов на Ближнем Востоке.
Hamas claimed its attack was retribution for what is described as attacks on women, the desecration of the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, and the ongoing siege of Gaza. The group's primary goal was to shake up the status quo and put the Palestinian issue back on the regional and international agenda. But will Hamas still be left standing with the backing of regional allies, or will Israel snuff out the group once and for all? More than 1,000 Israelis and Palestinians killed, thousands still missing. Buildings in the Gaza Strip reduced to rubble. It's the deadliest escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in decades. On the 7th of October, Hamas fighters launched a surprise air, land and sea offensive. 5,000 rockets rained down on Israel from Gaza starting from 6:30 in the morning. And this was a cover for Hamas fighters who cut barbed wire fences and used boats and paragliders to breach Israeli territory. Hamas claimed it launched Operation Al-Aqsa Flood to put an end to Israel's crimes of occupation. The assault prompted Israel to declare a state of war and pummel Gaza with airstrikes that have only been intensifying. Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed to destroy Hamas's Gaza strongholds and turn them to dust. Tensions between Israel and Palestine did not happen overnight. They have been simmering for decades. The Israel-Palestine conflict began when Britain took control of Palestine after the Ottoman Empire was defeated in World War I. The tensions grew between 1920 and 1940 when Palestinian Arabs opposed the relocation of Jews in the area. In 1948, British rulers left the area, unable to control the conflicts, and created a catastrophe in Israel, forcing Palestinians to flee. They fled to Gaza, the West Bank and neighboring Arab countries, and the Palestine Liberation Organization was created in 1964. In 1967, Israel defeated Egypt, Jordan and Syria in a six-day war and claimed Jerusalem as its capital. The late 20th century witnessed the emergence of two intifadas, or uprisings, as responses to Israeli occupation. The first intifada was in 1987 and the second intifada raged between 2000 and 2005 after Ariel Sharon's visit to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is revered by both Muslims and Jews. In 2005, Israel unilaterally withdrew from the Gaza Strip. Hamas stands for the Islamic Resistance Movement and is a Palestinian political and military organization established in 1987 during the First Intifada. It originated as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood and has a dual agenda: to govern the Gaza Strip and to pursue the liberation of Palestine through armed resistance. Hamas does not recognize Israel's statehood and remains firmly opposed to the Oslo Peace Accords. Instead, it envisions a Palestinian state within the 1967 borders, and it employs violent means, such as attacks on Israeli soldiers, settlers and civilians, to achieve this goal. The United States, the European Union, Canada, Egypt and Japan designate Hamas as a terrorist organization due to its use of violence, including suicide bombings. But the date chosen by Hamas was just a day after the Yom Kippur War was started 50 years ago. The aim was to recapture territory taken by Israel during a brief conflict in 1967. Hamas has called on its fighters in the West Bank and the Arab and Islamic worlds to join the battle against Israel. Hamas appears to have close ties with Iran. It is often described as an extension of Iranian influence in the region. Iran has been a major supporter of Hamas, providing financial assistance and military hardware, especially missiles and drones. Iranian leaders, including Ayatollah Khamenei, have publicly expressed support for Hamas and its attacks against Israel. Hezbollah, another militant group linked to Iran, has been involved in the conflict. The group launched attacks in support of Hamas and opposed any normalization of relations between Israel and Arab states, particularly Saudi Arabia. What's clear is that war has returned to the Middle East. Israel's heightened airstrikes have triggered a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, with many people struggling to access basic necessities such as food and water. Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank claim they are suffering due to Israeli actions such as blockade of Gaza, the construction of the West Bank barrier, and the destruction of Palestinian homes. Israel has cited the right to defend itself as Palestinian militants carry out attacks on Israeli civilians.